Just in time. Hey everybody, welcome to a special Zenny 62 live. I'm actually in just a few moments going to be calling Ray Chester, and Ray Chester is the tight end or tight end legend, Raider legend as he is referred to in these parts, for your Oakland Raiders, and a person who arguably should already be in the NFL Hall of Fame. I think that is something which will be corrected, and we're going to have Ray on to talk about what happened to the Raiders tonight, and we're looking forward to it. It's 8:56. I'm going to call him at 9 o'clock. Hey, Miss Christensen, how are you? For those of you watching this as a video on demand, my chat words appear here, so I'm responding to what my longtime viewers chat.
These plays too.
And going to put that little dealie there. I have NFL.com on here to look at the statistics from this gnarly game. Just absolutely gnarly. But before we do that, I'm going to go down and set up the live stream page and make sure that we're all here. Hey, is it Go Warriors or Go Raiders? Go everything, but go CSR, go. Hey, I'm just going to say, hey, go. How you doing? And I'm quite excited to have my guest on here as a call-in, and I'm going to call Ray in a moment. I've known Ray for some time, quite some time. So for those of you, who are early, I'm going to put put the mute on this. And Octavio, how are you? Who says this is our Black Sunday for the loss. Joseph Binsman, how are you? Says, wow, what a rough night for the Raiders. Didn't see that coming. Today was definitely a day for surprises. Go CSU Rams is sad. And Black Frog says every team lost today that didn't stand up. Except that's interesting because the Raiders did stand up, but that's another story. You know, it was a time to be distracted, wasn't it? You know, sad day, sad weekend for the league in terms of the President of the United States making the NFL his unfortunate focus, and in particular black athletes. So never thought I'd see a country turn this way, but it did. But I digress. Let me go back and make the necessary edits to this page so that it appears in the sports section and not people and blogs. Just did that right here. And I've got roughly, I would say, just outside of a minute before I call Ray Chester and get things rolling and started. Go over to the basic info here, do a little copying and pasting, like so, and then go down, put the necessary meta tags in, like I'm doing right now. It's 8:58, hitting save changes. I'm working on more guests as well, and I'm also going to announce that very soon I'm going to emphasize coverage of, and John Marks will love this, one of our regular viewers, science fiction, as Star Trek Discovery is on even as I speak. But we're going to talk about that another time, another show. Right now we are here going to the live page. It says view on watch page. And I've got the Skype open, ready to call Mr. Chester very in seconds. And we've got great people. And by the way, don't forget, folks, Zenny 62 cannot happen without you. And Rick Rice, you are the man. And hey, want to emphasize, Rick Rice, thank you for your message. And definitely entitled to disagree with me about anything we're talking about, the whole Trump issue, which is really depressing. And really depressing. But it was, again, you know, more about not about race, okay? It was about power and Machiavellian techniques, okay? So that's what it was about. Anyway, but I digress. Rick, just want to make sure that came through, and thank you for the honest and heartfelt sharing of your views and opinions. Always welcome here. Always welcome here. Definitely. And love you, Rick, as well. Love you, Rick. Definitely. So now it is 9 o'clock, and without any further ado, I am about to call longtime friend Ray Chester right now. So bear with me. I'm very excited to call Mr. Chester, and that's exactly what I am going to do, starting now, really. And let's see here. Skype and conversations and home, and here we go. Got it. There we go. All right, we are ready. And let's see here. And typing the number very carefully. And those of you who are paying attention to such things, well, I'm using Skype. And here we go, folks. Hold on to your belts. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, it's Zinni. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Awesome. Folks, it is my pleasure to introduce longtime friend and Raider legend, Oakland Raiders tight end, Ray Chester, who really deserves a place in the Hall of Fame, and we're going to get him there. He averaged 30.3 catches and 5,013 yards, and get this, 48 touchdowns, okay? 48 touchdowns during his career. He was one of the top 2 or 3 tight ends during his era. Ray, it's my honor to have you on as my guest, and fortunately, the Raiders didn't do so well today. What are your thoughts on the game and what happened?
Well, first of all, Vinny, it's a pleasure to be on your show. I know you as a long-time Raider fan, as well as a long-time supporter of helping me try to keep the Raiders stay in Oakland. And I want to compliment you on your efforts, and I'm proud of some of the work you've done.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
I watched the game tonight. Obviously, Vinny, this week was full with a lot of distraction. Sometimes those distractions can really be detrimental, particularly to a young team. And the Raiders, above all, they are a young team. They've got a bunch of really good and promising young veterans, the Khalil Mack, Cooper, and Clyde and such. And so they have a really good nucleus of young players, but they don't have a lot of experience when it comes to staying focused and fighting through adversity. We're going to add the fact that they traveled all the way across country to Washington. Anytime they travel across country, one time zone to another, it takes some adjustment. Now, I'm not trying to make excuses for the poor performances tonight, but they do impact, the way a team can play and the team's ability to focus. It's an added burden on the coaching staff when you have these distractions. And a lot of times, it is a measure of just how well the coaches are able to read their players. And I'm talking about position coaches now. I'm not talking about necessarily a head coach. Because when you get down to it, the receiver coach and the running back coach and the linebacker coaches, they're more in tune with their individual players than the head coaches. And so it's their job to really read their players in their particular position groups and make sure that they get a sense that those guys are focusing in and concentrating on the job they have to do, as opposed to the things that are deterring them.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I want to get your thoughts on that since we're talking about that, quote, distraction, unquote. What are your thoughts on the way Donald Trump attacked the NFL and in particular the NBA and, most importantly, black athletes?
With all due respect, I think Donald Trump, my best impression of Donald Trump is that he's a con artist. I believe that, and he knows how to distract. Mm-hmm. He's an illusionist. Put it like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of important things going on right now. Situation, in Korea. Global warming. I mean, as manifest by this crazy weather stuff we've got.
Mm-hmm.
Our budget. Many issues that are that we're faced with right now as a country, and Congress is can't seem to get the grip on everything from healthcare to infrastructure. Mm-hmm. So what I think is I think that compared to all of the things that we should be focused on from a governmental standpoint, for Donald Trump to be focused on what he focused on this past week, I just think it reminds me of a magician who's sleight of hand. He's trying to distract the American people from the real issues that we're dealing with now in terms of policy and that kind of thing, and redirect it to something that obviously is going to be controversial and is going to cause people to be polarized one way or another. So I'm disappointed. I would hope to think that everybody who's in the most powerful position in the world would be more mature. Mm-hmm. Then this guy has demonstrated that he is, but it is what it is. And I really think that the players did a really good job of working through it and showing some solidarity for not only for each other but for the thing that's most important in this. They show solidarity for the rights that each individual in the United States, vis-a-vis the First Amendment, is supposed to have. They didn't all agree on how what should be done or how they should handle it. They certainly didn't all feel comfortable with not standing at attention when the flag was presented or when the anthem was played. But what they did was they saw through the smoke screen and they were able to deal with the real issue. I wish our president would take a hint and start focusing on the real issues that he's in office to deal with, as opposed to all this petty, the petty stuff that he's, provoking the country to be at odds about.
Yeah,
so that's enough about that. I mean, you've already given too much time. We can talk about the games and
sure.
Talk about the Raiders and. That's how I feel about it.
Sure. No, I appreciate that. Absolutely. We're on with Ray Chester, legendary Oakland Raiders tight end. And, Ray, is the Raiders' problem their defense, or should we, given what you just said, consider this sort of an anomaly and not look at the film and move on? Or how did the Raiders approach a game like this when you played?
Well, they had a bad night. They had a horrible night, and they got started on the wrong foot, and they had a bad night. And generally, when you have something like that, you have a really exceptional good night, and you have a bad night, and like they say, you take the lowest performance and throw that out, and take the best performance and throw that out, and somewhere in the middle is what kind of team you have and how they play. They didn't play well tonight, and there's lots of reasons for it. When you ask, was it defense or offense or whatever, the defense played the whole game. Offense couldn't stay on the field. I think in the first half we had 2 first downs. You can't win a football game with your defense on the field that much. They hit some big plays on us, but moreover, they controlled the ball with ball control and a mixed offensive attack. The running game was superb. The medium passing game was superb, and they hit a few big plays on us. We couldn't get anything going offensively, and that's all the pressure was on the defense. When you put that kind of pressure on the defense, it's pretty hard to win.
Do you think that, because there's some on my live stream like to blame Ken Norton for the defensive woes, and I point out to them that it's really Jack Del Rio's defense. Do you think that it's unfair, as I do, to blame the defense in this case, or is it really just what else is it? How should we think about this? You're doing a great case of laying it out for us.
Well, really, just like I just said, when you go a whole first half and your offense has 2 first downs, then how are you going to blame your defense? For your offense's lack of production in terms of first downs, in terms of keeping the ball, in terms of keeping the defense off the field. There's an old saying that the best defense is a strong offense, and the best offense is a strong defense. So yeah, the defense was under stress all night tonight, and they had to deal with what I consider to be a superlative game plan. I mean, we got outcoached, we got outplayed, and certainly I'm not going to blame that all on the defense, because when the defense has to play as much and as long as they play tonight, then you have to give the offense their share of the blame too.
So this sounds.
As an offensive player, I feel even worse than that. I would say even more than that. The offense just could not. I mean, they could not hit a bull in the butt with a bass fiddle, as they would say.
A bull in the butt with a bass fiddle. I'm going to write that down, have that bronze.
They couldn't hit a bull in the butt with a bass fiddle. That's the... When you look at it, I mean, there's a lot of things, if you look at the game technically, one thing about having been a player, one of the things you learn is you learn how to watch a game. So as opposed to watching the game as a spectator, you're watching the big plays and you're watching, the crowd and the cheerleaders and this and that and whatever. When you are a player, especially veteran players, they learn to watch the game critically, more critically. And we just never got established in anything. I mean, we made a few futile attempts at, running the ball. I feel bad for the running backs. We got great running backs. I mean, holy moly! I mean, we got great talent on that team right now, offensively and defensively. But we just didn't establish anything. I mean, I was trying to figure out what are they trying to do.
Yeah.
We didn't do anything with medium range passes. We really didn't do anything with short range passes. The running game never got established. We didn't run any gimmicks. Gimmicks meaning draws and screens and that kind of thing. We had a couple bubble screens and we tried a couple reverses with passing and whatever. But especially on the road, you've got to establish ball control. And ball control, when you establish that, is manifest by a series of first downs. So I would much rather see a half that went like, okay, we had 8 to 10 first down conversions, right?
Right.
And the score was, the halftime score was Raiders 10, Washington 3. I'd much rather see that than see a half where we threw for 225 yards and, we had 2 touchdowns on, primarily on long passing plays. And by the way, in that half, we only converted 4 first downs,
Mm-hmm.
but we had 2 touchdowns. To me, when it gets to crunch time, you have to be able to establish ball control, and you have to establish the diversity in your offense. Whereas you can put the offensive load, the offensive burden on the different elements of the offense. For instance, you put the burden on your offensive line, your running backs, you run the ball,
Mm-hmm.
and you pound, you wear the other team down, and so that you can constantly get first downs. So in a scoring drive, maybe there's 5 or 6 first downs before you score.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what happens when it takes you 5 or 6 first downs to score? Guess what? You control the clock.
Right.
And you control the time in the game. And you keep the defense off of the doggone field.
Mm-hmm.
So, I just think we got outcoached. Certainly, the offensive performance of not just the players and the coach, but the coaches also from Washington was superlative. And we had a bad night. Our guys didn't do so well.
So it sounds like this could be said to be a good loss. In other words, I remember when you and I were talking initially, you said that I think they were reading their press clips too much. So from that perspective, can they just say, hey, this was a good loss and we can really take a look at ourselves, before things get out of hand?
Well, I guess no such thing as a good loss. But I know what you're saying, what you mean. Mm-hmm. This loss has come early enough to where we certainly can correct it, and we certainly can make adjustments. But I think this loss should serve as a real example to us of how a team like the Washington Redskins that do not have the talent that the Oakland Raiders have, mm-hmm. came out and just drug us up and down the field, and beat us in every aspect of the game. It beat us in every aspect of the game. Mm-hmm. They did. Coaching, offense, defense, special teams, game management, field management, time management, whatever. They beat us in every aspect of the game. So, for whatever reasons, whether it was distractions, whether it was preparation, whether it was whatever, we were not prepared to beat that team.
In the remaining time I have you for, one of our viewers has a question. It says, he asked, Mr. Chester, what type of adjustments the Raiders need to make against the Broncos for Week 4, in your view?
What kind of adjustments? Well, they've got to have a more balanced offense, and they've got to be able to control the ball because Denver is coming off of a loss too. We know Denver's got that great defense, and they're showing signs of having a pretty good offense. I think that our quarterback, in the same vein as I think of Denver's, our quarterback's a little more established than the young guy at Denver, but he seems to have the tools to play well, and Denver always plays us well. So again, I just think that we have to we got to establish ball control, and and we have to do more in the area of completing mid-range passes, mm-hmm. because we're good at throwing the back shoulder fade, mm-hmm. Or the 30-yard ball, down the field, back shoulder fade, or the 3 or 4 yard dink. Mm-hmm. Where I see the deficiencies, we're not able to complete the mid-range pass. 3rd and 12, 3rd and 8,
right.
We had a third down and 1, right? Mm-hmm. And we went spread offense.
Yep.
And I'm saying to myself, we got Marshawn Lynch, mm-hmm. we've got Jamae Galawali, and we got the 2 youngsters that are running like I don't know on 3rd and 1, and we come out and go spread.
Hey, isn't that what got Matt Ryan sacked in the Super Bowl? Remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Sack
I
fumble.
do.
Yeah.
And, that's the same kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm saying is, and it's easy to second guess, and I'm not trying to second guess, but I'm just saying that there's some things that you have to establish in the course of the season, during the season, so that your team has the confidence. Third one, we're going to run the ball. And then you want the defense, and every defense in the league understand that in 3rd and 1, we'll stuff the ball down your throat.
Right.
Because once those teams start to think that, right? Once they start to think that, now you can go play fake,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And hit the big ball down the middle after you take a 3rd and 1 run.
Mm-hmm.
But going back in the spread defense on spread offense on 3rd and 1, what is that saying? What's that telling your team, your play, the other team, the fans, and what is that saying? You can't get 1 yard?
Yeah.
Running the ball?
You're right. Something.
I'm not a fan of that.
It reminds me of a
I
question.
got nothing. I have no problem. I have no problem with play fake on 3rd and 1. And once you've established that you will run the ball, and once your line is established dominance in the line of scrimmage, you play fake all day. You hit big plays. Going to spread offense in 3rd and 1, I'm like, what is that all about?
I think you point to it. I call that kind of a disease of thinking in the league. And I remember I was at the NFL annual meeting this year, and I posed the question to Dan Quinn about why he called that kind of play in the Super Bowl, like the one you're talking about with respect to the Raiders. And it's like this matchup thing. They feel like they have the matchups, whereas in the days you played, it was more about, hey, look, we have the horses to pick up that yard. If we can't do it, there's something wrong. Where did we go wrong in terms of, are we overanalyzing football now to the point where we're trying to make it like the NBA and matchup basketball?
Really, you hit it right on the head. That we're absolutely overanalyzed and overcoached.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of trying to come up with the magic play. Trying to come up with a play that's a sleight of hand or whatever. Sometimes you just have to establish that you just going to run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And a good example of it was tonight. Washington ran the ball down our throats.
Yeah.
And what I watched was our defense was playing hard.
Mm-hmm.
They were playing hard. I mean, they really were trying to man the line, play hard. But Washington, this play selection and the fact that they kept us off balance with, mid-range passes and playing and throwing the ball to the back. The fact that we kept that we were killed with the running back killed us. I think he had over 200 yards of combined, number 24, over 200 yards of combined offense. You spoke about the Super Bowl, Vinny.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And if you really want to know who did the most damage, in the Super Bowl, who really was, as far as I was in the start of the game, sure, the quarterback was great, and that kind of thing like that. And there were other players that played great. But their little running back coming out of the backfield on the Super Bowl caught 10 or 11 balls out of the backfield. And ran the ball is the guy. Tonight reminded me of that.
Yeah, you're talking about
for
the Redskins. It was Chris Thompson tonight. He had 8 rushes for 38 yards, but he had 6 receptions for 150 yards and a touchdown. So his combined total was, there you go, about 200 yards total offense.
That's 200 yards in offense.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see did you see them go 4 wide one time? Did you see them go 4 wide receivers one time? We got so much talent at running back and even at tight end now, right? Mm-hmm. And our first line wide receivers and whatever. Why on earth would you even consider going 4 wide receivers in the red zone on the 4-yard line,
right?
5-yard line?
Right. That's
why would you do that?
You know, I wish, Morris, if we're ever all at the game at the same time, it would be great for you and Morris Bradshaw to talk about that. The reason I say is because I remember last year Morris Bradshaw and I were at the Coliseum watching the Broncos game, sitting on that, the entrance to the West Side Club, and Morris was basically ready to put his fist through the concrete wall because Bill Musgrave, we had a 3rd and goal on the one. Actually, it was 1st and goal, 2nd goal, and 3rd and goal, and Musgrave kept calling these passes, and they were missing. And so I thought that the whole point of bringing Todd Downing in as, the offensive coordinator was to get back to the kind of football you're talking about, and yet here we are talking about the same thing all over again. Hey, one of my viewers has a question. I know that I'm very sensitive to your time. He asks, ask Mr. Chester if he remembers Ted Taub of the Oakland Invaders and how he was approached to sign with the Invaders along with Cedric Hartman. Do you remember that?
I sure do. Yes, I sure do. I absolutely do remember that very well. Yes.
And the Oakland Raiders were our great team at that time. And Ray, I know that you've got a busy schedule ahead of you, and I want to thank you very much, and also say, hey, look, what can we do to get you in the Hall of Fame? I mean, that's something that needs to happen yesterday.
There's a certain amount of politics involved in that, and I don't think we can do anything that we haven't done. I just think, we just have to wait it out. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate all the well wishes and all the people that have really put effort in trying to make it known that they support me and perhaps one day being inducted. But the reality of it is that there's a bunch of guys of our guys that are being overlooked, and guys from my era that are being overlooked. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it's, we're going to see any changes in that, Vinny. I really don't think that guys who played decades ago should have to wait. We push further.
Amen. Amen. I completely agree.
Because of players that are, great players, that finish the game and go in within 5 to 10 years after they've been out. And there's some guys that have been out 30 years and are great players and fully deserving of being in the Hall of Fame, but yet they just push further and further back. And we saw that with Ken Stabler.
Yep.
So he gets in the Hall posthumously. That's great, but not for Kenny. It's great for us to say finally, but so that's the way that goes. It's political. I don't spend a whole lot of time worrying about it. Mm-hmm. I'm more concerned about, one of the things that we talked about with respect to our offense and our defense. We had a lot more pressure in the pass rush tonight than we have been having. We did some blitzing. I was surprised, at how well Kirk Cousins and how well prepared they were to deal with our blitz and to deal with our defense.
Hey, you think
they executed a superb offensive game plan, and there was power running. They had gadgets. They had screens. They converted on 3 or more very long third down situations, 3rd and 15 one time, 3rd and 12, third. So that's the way you think when football games.
Oh wait, I got it.
That's the way when you really are a really solid football team.
I got to ask you this. I got to ask you this question.
I don't believe in leaning totally on your quarterback or leaning totally on a couple of receivers or whatever. To win and to win consistently and to win in tight games, whatever, you've got to be hitting on all cylinders.
I got to ask you this question real quick. Do you think, having played the game, that a factor like Derek Carr getting what at one point was the highest contract payment schedule ever given to a NFL player, and yet you have Kirk Cousins trying to get something like that and still, basically on the fence with the Redskins. Do you think that played into how the Redskins came out offensively, and maybe they had something to prove, like their quarterback was better than one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL?
That's always a touchy subject. I'm happy for Derek Carr and his family.
Mm-hmm.
Vinny. And there's always, if you let it, there's always can be disputes had about who makes how much and what and what. Like they say, beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah.
And obviously to Reggie and Mark and the Raiders, Derek Carr is very, very beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They gave him the biggest contract in the league, I guess.
Yeah, they certainly did. Yeah.
Certainly tonight, if you had to judge by tonight, you might have second thoughts about that. You might think about, maybe trying to pick Kirk Cousins up off of when he went up contract or something.
Ray Chestnut's a quarterback controversy.
And certainly Derek has been a really outstanding young player for us. But there's another old saying, Vinny, that says, don't name that building too soon.
Well said.
You really don't. I think Derek's a fine young player. I think there's a lot of fine young players on this team. I think we were laden with talent, and I just think that the thing we need to work on more than anything is getting all those talented guys involved. Really, we got talented tight ends. We got a great offensive line. We got receivers. We got backs that can pound, backs that can sack. We just need to have better coordination.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that.
Absolutely.
Better coordination, and football is a game of adjustment, Vinny. And so General Patton said one time when he was talking about the wars over in Europe, and he was talking about fortresses and whatever, and he was talking about his tank brigade, and he said fixed fortifications are a monument to the stupidity of man.
I like that one.
And I relate that to football. I think a fixed, set in stone game plan is a monument to the stupidity of coaching. I think in today's game, teams have to be fluid. They have to be able to make adjustments in real time. And the teams that do that best, a la New England,
yes,
the teams that do that best are the teams that win. The teams that stay stuck on stupid, because that's their game plan and that's just whatever like that, I would refer them to General Patton's quote.
I couldn't have said it better myself, Ray. I really couldn't have. And, again, I'm going to say I want to have you back. Unless, how much time do you have? I know you're busy, but,
Yeah, I've got to run. But
okay.
I really would like to come back on the show. I have the utmost respect for you, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and your audience. And I actually like the questions because, I'm not the kind of person that's trying to critique or I'm not trying to badmouth anyone.
Right? No,
but
not at all.
Some things that we've been trained, Vinny, to watch the game critically and strategically. And there's just so many things that you see that are going on that that is just not well thought out.
Yep.
People say, "Well, who do you think you are?" Well, I'm just a guy who's been watching this game a long time.
Yep.
Played it a long time, and was pretty successful in implementing you know, some of this theory I'm talking about.
Yeah, and played during one of the greatest eras of our generation in the NFL football, and should be duly rewarded for that. So I can't say enough for, you know, having you here, and then going to get you back as well, Ray. And again, I really appreciate your time. I really do.
Yeah. Let's do it again, Dean.
You got it, man.
To you in your show, and I'm looking forward to coming on again.
Oh, and we're going to stay in Oakland, man. I'm telling you, the Raiders are not moving to Vegas.
Hey, it's not over till it's over.
That's right. It's not over till it's over, baby. All right, man. Hey, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
You got it, buddy.
Okay. See ya. That was my friend, Oakland Raiders legendary tight end Ray Chester, reminding us that, yeah, it's not over till it's over regarding the Raiders in Vegas. Raiders are here, okay? I couldn't have said it better myself. And as John Mark says, thank you, Ray Chester. Thank you all. Thank you as too. It was fantastic to have him on. And for those of you who might be thinking, hey, you know, Zinni's maybe forgotten about this whole issue about keeping the Raiders in Oakland and all that stuff. No, I have not. I have not. Ray has been, for anybody who follows my videos, a consistent champion of keeping the Raiders here in Oakland and staving off the Vegas disaster to come. And yes, I did say that, the Vegas disaster to come. So look forward to your thoughts on the game and everything else. And I'm going to focus it more on what happened. And you know, he being Ray Chester, said some interesting things. And John Mark says, thank you for your hard work. Thank you. Like I say, hey, folks, invest. You know, if you want more coverage like this, I'm telling you, investing really brings it in, and couldn't have happened without investments from folks like yourself. You really couldn't, you know. So that's where it's at, and that's the truth. So, like I say, your investments make it happen because this is the media of the future today. That's the way it is right now. And what I like doing is having guests on like Ray Chester and asking the questions I've always wanted to ask about football in a way that is not too technical, you know, but gets to the heart of the matter, and then also respects where they come from as players. That said, my friend Vern Glenn at KPIX had an outstanding interview today in Washington, D.C. with the Raiders, and asked great questions. I want to give Vern a shout out, longtime friend. You know, get him on the show one day and we'll talk. But Vern just brought it home. He did the kind of interview that I would have done. And I don't say that a lot. I like what he did today and what Vern does in Bay Area media, Bay Area sports media. He used to be Mr. Involvement, you know. Used to do everything from skydive to whatever, you know, crazy sport thing he did. Now he just covers sports news. A's, Raiders, Warriors, Sharks. It's Vern, you know. So, yeah. So basically, Barry Lee says, now, who would think that Zinni would forget about keeping the Raiders in Oakland? Not me. So how did everybody like the interview with Ray Chester? He said a lot of interesting things. First of all, and I think the highlight of our interview for me was that, well, a couple. First of all, Ray Chester said that the Raiders were outcoached. He said that. He said the Raiders were outcoached, okay? Outcoached. And that's a bold statement. And he also said that we have a schism in the game. The game is, there's some who overanalyze and overcoach, is what he said. Overanalyze and overcoach the game. So Ray's quite right. I think that what surprised me about the game was the Raiders really intended, on keeping Carr in the pocket. And I really believe that a lot of the Redskins' game plan was focused on the fact that the Raiders don't vary what's called their launch points. Having Carr roll out here or roll out frequently. I'm not saying they didn't do it because they did it, but it was toward the waning moments of the game. And the rollout that they called was ineffective, and if I'm not mistaken, yeah, if memory serves, toward the narrow side of the field, not the wide side of the field. Didn't like the call or the play design at that point. So, as 831 Scott says, I agree they were outcoached. You could see it. On to other comments. Rick Rice says, did you hear the Chargers are considering moving back to San Diego? Well, I haven't heard that from the Chargers, okay? I haven't heard that from the Chargers. I have heard that advanced by two people representing one media organization that I will not mention. And the two people work with each other, okay? I have not heard that from the Chargers. I haven't heard that from the league. I'm not saying I discount what these two people have said, but I'm always careful with information that I feel is put out by the media to achieve an objective. Not that there's anything wrong with achieving an objective, okay? But that's my concern. What I mean by achieving an objective is you don't really know who said that the NFL or who the source was. All right? In other words, was it a high-placed source was within the Chargers organization? Was it strictly an owner that said this? Okay? If so, give us a bit more of a hint. I mean, if they say an NFL owner said blank, right? Without naming the owner, then I'll give pause. If it was more than one owner saying this, it has to be paid attention to. But the way I read it, it didn't seem like it came directly from an owner. It seemed like it was more talk of thoughts of like, hey, maybe we made a mistake, but not, hey, we're going to fix this. Saying, hey, maybe we made a mistake is far different from saying, hey, we're going to fix this. So I'm not encouraged to jump on that bandwagon until I'm absolutely certain that's the case. Now, that said, all right, the Chargers are off to a lousy start. All the seats at StubHub were not filled. You could tell that watching the game, although 80% of them were. The other is that a simple fact, okay, is that and how do I say this? And I really want to stick on the focus of football tonight, right here, okay, folks? So I'm going to stick on the focus of football. I'm saying this for my video on demand viewers right now who may be wondering, what the chat people, there's a couple of chat people, but I'm going to stick on the focus of football, and I have a particular reason for that, okay? So my point is that the Chargers are in the wrong place. We know it. Chargers fans know it. Rams fans know it. And there is this problem of LA football. It's not working. And the league needs to overcome its romanticism with the idea of LA, all right, with respect to the reality of the idea of LA, which has, the largest rate of underemployed people in the United States. Crawford 371. Hey, Crawford, how are you? He asks, how about the ending of the Falcons-Lions game? Yeah, what was that about? I mean, time ran out. Looks like he scored to me before the knee hit. It looked a lot like the reverse of the Super Bowl, where the running back's knee hit before he broke the plane of the goal, yet Pats fans would argue that he broke the plane of the goal. And speaking of which, how about a shout out for Deshaun Watson of the Texans and his, 22 of 33, 301 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interception performance? He threw lasers out there, folks. He threw lasers. Second game out, and he played lights out ball. You just have to give it to him, and it's unfortunate he didn't get the win, but it's a classic case, I don't care what anyone says, of finishing or not. The defense has to finish the game. J.J. Watt almost got to him, but you know what? almost only works in horseshoes and nuclear war. All right. So, and Joe Flacco said, "Oh, oh boy, oh my God." Yes, had a very rough day, a very rough day, a very rough day, and the Jacksonville Jaguars walked into Wembley Stadium and beat the organization I said right here had the Super Bowl caliber defense. Beat the Baltimore Ravens 44-9. I mean, wow. The Jacksonville Jaguars, and Blake Bortles had 4 touchdown passes. 4. As Rick Rice reminds us, Joe Flacco is an elite quarterback. So there you go, right, Joe? Right, Rick? Rick Rice with the timely turn of phrase. Barry Lee says, yes, Watson was really good today, and man, can he scramble to avoid a sack. A scramble and complete a pass. Spins out there, spins to the left. Gets rid of it. This man is Michael Vick with the passing cred, right? Okay? So, Rick Rice writes, he's saving himself for the next week. Talking about Joe Flacco. And Rick Rice believes that Ken Norton needs to go. I still disagree. And I agree with Ray Chester, who said that, hey, look, how can you ask your defense to basically bail out your offense when the offense is not, your offense isn't completing drives. Your offense needs to give your defense a break by completing drives. I think Mr. Chester had an excellent point there. And, okay, so, all right, go CSU, I'll see you, all right. And so Crawford says, remember Bortles had a QB rating of 5 last week. He sure did. He sure did. He certainly did. He certainly did. He certainly did. And so he really did. And, excuse me, Bortles had a QB rating of 5. Wow. He went from 5 to the highest. He went from basically GOAT, and I mean greatest of all time, to hero. Or you can if you like, he went from GOAT to GOAT, right? He went from GOAT, to GOAT, greatest of all time, in 1 week. Wow. 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 Now, I wasn't going to do this, but I will mention there is one of our viewers, Go CSU Warriors, wants it known. He says, my thoughts and prayers go out to my fellow brothers and sisters in Christ who are wounded and killed today. Please pray for Burnett Chapel Church of Christ. They are fellow brothers to me, please. And so with that in mind, we will hold a moment of silence for those who were sadly to the point where I really didn't want to talk about it, but I said I would do this, and I'm going to do it. We're going to hold a moment of silence for those who were killed today in Nashville, Tennessee. All right. Okay, thank you. That's hard. And that was why I wanted to avoid that. That's something else. All right. Rick Rice says, thank you, Barry. Rick Rice says they should put a spy on Chris Thompson after the first 5 catches and 100 yards he had. Rick, I was less concerned about the player than the scheme because, as Ray Chester pointed out, the Redskins did an outstanding job, and I mean outstanding job of mixing up their plays to the point where that 73-yard screen catch and run touchdown was basically one of those plays where you look at it and you say, all right, the Raiders were basically dead before the play started because they didn't have anyone really pressing on the receivers over there. They had loose coverage defensively, not pressed. They weren't expecting that throw. They didn't have a linebacker up close. And so when that throw came over the trip side, you know what? The Raiders had to run and catch up. And by the time they got over there, they were blocked. The Redskins did an outstanding job of planning for the Raiders game. The Redskins coaching staff acted as if they wanted to make a statement under the lights, on Sunday Night Football. And they did. Or, as Baus reminded us earlier in this live stream, did you see that? Did you see that? Yeah, we saw it and we felt it, okay? So, now, Will.i.am Musk says, I can't say enough about the Skins' dominance on defense tonight. And 831 Scott says, well, they were on the field the whole game, so maybe that had something to do with it. Yes. And Crawford 371 notes, the blitzes the Raiders presented, it looked like Washington had a different package and routes to spread out their coverage. Yes. And 831 Scott said the defense got turnovers and made stops. The offense choked when they had the ball, which is exactly what Ray Chester said in my interview with him earlier on this live stream. And Barry Lee says, hey, Zinni, I'll ask what you think the Niners or the NFL will do to increase attendance. Also wonder how this season ticket sales are going, considering. I will say one thing about the Niners-Rams game. It looked better than I thought it was. Early on, like the first quarter of the Rams-Chargers game, it looked like it was going to be embarrassingly empty. But, after rush hour ended, which is like around 7 o'clock, people started to come in, and the crowd ended up being good, all things considered. Certainly much better than the week before. I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that it was the Rams and the Niners, and it was a night game. It was cooler versus the heat out there, and Levi's Stadium offering very little protection from the heat. So I think it had a lot to do with it. Now we have Federico Pacheco. How you doing, man? Hey, Zinni. What's tonight's topic? Well, you missed my interview with great Oakland Raider legendary tight end Ray Chester. And I really enjoyed it. I want to have him back again. You missed a lot of that. He was on for, we talked about him being on for 15 minutes. And to his credit, he stuck around for 30. So, hey, that was fantastic. And I want to say thank you very much to Ray Chester. It was really fantastic to have him on. It really was. And William says Gruden called a good game. And talking about Jay Gruden with the Redskins, he did. 831 Scott says hello, Federico. Rocky Madden Mobile says, that's his handle, folks. Rocky Madden Mobile. That's his handle in the chat. He writes, I taped the whole game. Raiders were just not themselves. That theme is echoed tonight. Ray Chester said it because of, and he attributed it to the distraction caused by President Trump, as well as having to travel from west to east to play Sunday night under the lights. So, and Federico Pacheco says, howdy, Scott. And again, I say to anyone who enjoys this, invest, all right? Invest and, invest. PayPal. In fact, you know what? I think I put up a link that people couldn't quite get to. So let me put up a better link. There it is. Invest. That's better. You can use that link and it'll pop up. There it is right there. Okay. Invest. Because we're going to have more of this. More Raider players. More guests. More fun. More conversation. Some of our shows are going to be done at venues you didn't expect before. I'm going to have people come in. So, in both here and in Georgia, too, as well. Barry Lee says, any word on the Mexico game yet from the NFL? I haven't gotten an official word yet on that. I haven't seen another. I'll follow up with the league because that's how I got it the first time. See what is put out there, and definitely will know sooner rather than later. Absolutely. And Federico says, what should the Raiders' next step be? I think the Raiders really need to concentrate on getting the right kind of touches for their star running back, Marshawn Lynch. I'm concerned that Lynch hasn't quite broken that big one yet, and that they're treating him a lot like Trent Richardson. Yeah, I did say that, Trent Richardson, where they expect him to go between the tackles and make his big gains, as opposed to focusing on designing special plays to address, the possibility that maybe he's not quite as fast as he used to be. Definitely is tough, and definitely moving defenders out of the way, but he hasn't yet broken that big one. And he needs that space to do it. They need to help him get that space by calling counter action plays and designing plays where he has, the fullback as a lead blocker for him to one side. They really need to focus on developing a complete running strategy for Marshawn Lynch rather than the 3 types of plays that I've seen to date. They need to have 15 types. So, and Barry Lee asks, what happened to the St. Louis lawsuit? Good question. Don't know the answer to that at all. And so it's 9:55 p.m. and I'm going to go until 10:30, which is 1:30 back east. All right, so we'll go for that long, and that's it. So again, if you invest, I forgot to mention this. Why not? If you invest tonight, it'll be a double shares night. Double shares tonight. Raider recap night, and quite fascinating time talking with Oakland Raiders tight end Ray Chester about the Raiders' loss to the Washington Redskins. Yeah, there I said it, the Redskins. So don't shoot me, and certainly don't send me to the cooler. The cooler used to say on the Hogan's Heroes. Send him to the cooler. Remember Colonel? Well, some of you may remember. Oh, what am I talking about? It's on syndication. You can watch Hogan's Heroes on syndication on, I think it's TV Me, or what is it called? But Me TV or whatever. And Washington. Yeah, TV Me, I think it is. Oakland Raiders. Let's see here. Lost to Washington Redskins. Let's say hashtag, I'm writing this on Twitter, live stream talk. Like that. Okay. And there. All right. So now what is it? Okay. Now, Me TV. Thank you, John Marks, straightened me out. It's Me TV. Me TV. And 831 Scott says, Derek Carr's interceptions are very uncharacteristic to the norm and had a huge impact on the outcome of the game. I think they had an off night and they will bounce back the next game. Barry Lee says, I loved Hogan's Heroes. For those young viewers, the show made fun of the Germans. That's interesting. What I liked about Hogan's Heroes wasn't so much the making fun of the Germans sort of thing, but just that they had these interesting interplays, because I was a little kid, right, between Colonel Klink and Schultz and Hogan, and they had the basement where they played the cards and all that, and the double agents and all the intrigue and all that. That was cool, and yet it was funny. And you kept wondering what they were going to do that caused them to get caught, It's funny how when you're a little kid, everything is heightened by that much. It's not the end of the world like you thought it was going to be as a little kid, that sort of thing. So, 831 Scott says, excuse me. 831 Scott says, Derek Carr's interceptions were got that one, all right. And John Mark says, Klink. Yes, Colonel Klink. Yes, absolutely. And Octavia says, they support Raiders staying in Oakland. Talking about Ballers. Oh, that's good. I've heard a lot about it. I haven't seen the latest episode of Ballers at all. And maybe one day I'll catch it. Hey, folks, welcome to Zinni62. We had Oakland Raiders legendary tight end Ray Chester on as my guest for the first 30 minutes of our live stream. And now we're talking about, hey, what happened to the Raiders? And that's what we're talking about. And so Federico said, should Raiders use any trick plays? Well, actually, that's interesting because the Raiders did use what some would call a trick play. It was an end around a Cordero Patterson that was stuffed by Ryan Kerrigan, the defensive end with the Washington Redskins. And he was just sitting there. It was like he was coming around. What happened was that, first of all, the Raiders called a play such that they had Kerrigan unblocked. The defensive tackle went on that, excuse me, the offensive tackle on that side, went past him, let him come in, okay, and then went about looking for the linebacker on that side. They let the defender come in as if to overcommit to the play going on this side. And instead of overcommitting, you could see on the replay, he kind of jumped like this. Like, oh, look what I found. Here comes Cordell Patterson. Boom! Boom! Down for a loss. They had the right defense. And what that's called in football parlance is making sure the back door is closed. The back door is that, from the perspective of the defense, the front door is what appears to be the point of attack. Now, you think the play is going in this direction, but they give the reverse handoff, right, to what the defense thinks is the back door. Well, the end is supposed to come down. The defensive end is supposed to come in and shut off the back door, and that's what Kerrigan did. He did it very, very well. So, and Barry Lee says, will you be at the Plank this week with Godfather Grizz? We're talking about getting together on Tuesday and not Monday. And the reason for that, but bottom line is yes, I will. And the reason for that is because of the untimely passing that has occurred with his loved one. So, yeah, that's it. Octavia says the Raiders did not compete. Big Eightful, how are you? Big Eightful writes, the Raiders got punked by an okay team tonight. See what happens next week in Denver. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say this. The Raiders are going to lose in Denver. And the reason why I believe this is going to happen is because of the Broncos. I'm just going to say it straight off. The Broncos get off the ball really fast, okay? Both on offense and defense. I saw it against the Bills, where what killed them, a game they should have won, were Simeon's interceptions. But the Raiders need to practice. First of all, on defense, they need to, and the way you counter a team like an offensive team that gets off the ball really fast, is to play close-up press defense to really counter that thrust, okay? If they don't do that, if they play this loose elephant-assisted defense where you have the stand-up defensive end, the Broncos are going to kill them on the ground in much the same way they killed the Cowboys on the ground. But if the Raiders play something more like a double A gap style defenses, something out of the ordinary of what they play, all right, then the Raiders have a great chance of coming out of what we used to call Mile High Stadium and now we call Invesco or whatever it's called. Now it's something else other than Invesco, right? But the whole point is the Raiders have a great chance of coming out of Denver with a win. But I really am concerned about the Broncos' running game. It's a slashing running game with a lot of vertical, and it's very effective out of the shotgun because the Broncos use a lot of vertical set runs. And what do I mean by that? It's standing up, the offensive lineman standing up and pushing, okay, from a shotgun formation. So it looks like a pass, and they have a pass set, but then it's a run and they're pushing you out of the way. That way of blocking is a staple in many air raid offenses, like, for example, Washington State. Cal had it when they had Sonny Dykes as coach, and a number of teams. Texas A&M does it under Kevin Sumlin. So I can go on and on. Kentucky, I can go on and on and on. It is a common approach in college football. Not necessarily my favorite, but after seeing the way the Broncos do it and have done it, I've become a convert. I'm really concerned that the Raiders are not prepared for that. You really have to do a great job, not just crowding the line of scrimmage. And I don't mean necessarily 8 in the box, but I mean in terms of linebackers up close. The old 70s styles of defense where you had both weak side linebacker and strong side linebacker up close, or maybe both on one side, and then bringing down the free safety as your rover back and with your middle linebacker, combinations like that. Now, Silver Maze, all right, and Silver Maze is new. He says Denver runs that sweep pass a lot, so I think the Raiders will have some problems on defense. Yep. And he also says the O-line didn't do much of anything. And Crawford371 writes that Crabtree better protect his gold chain from Talib next week. Gotta like that one. And 831 Scott says Carr was off tonight, took his throws, just didn't look sharp. And just didn't look sharp, all right? And so, again, I say welcome. And, you know, hey, even if it's either by PayPal or by your purchase of a super chat, invest. That's right. I don't care if it's $2 or $20 or $200. Invest, please. Definitely keeps this going and keeps me getting, if you like, unless you didn't think my guest was great. I thought my guest was awesome. I thought Ray Chester did an awesome job. You know, I really did. And I'm happy, and yeah, I put it together. So, John Mark says Broncos lost 26-16. They did lose. They did lose. They lost to a very fast Buffalo Bills defense. Octavio says the team quit on Mark Davis for not supporting the protest. That's interesting. Mark Davis did support the protest, Octavio. He said that he was not going to tell his team not to protest. Basically, he did. He supported the protest by basically saying to his players, look, go say what you want, do what you want, just make sure you do it in a classy way. That's what he said. He at no point, and if you think about it, it's his team. So basically, here's the owner of the team saying, go protest. Go protest on my behalf. This is basically what he said. So, Octavio, and for those of you watching on video on demand, you're wondering who is he talking to? Talking to my video chat members here. Octavio responds, by the end of the day, he was laughing in his booth, and I don't see that at all. No. And not only that, he wasn't laughing in his booth, Mark Davis, because the Raiders are getting hammered. So I know that wasn't happening at all. At all. Forget that. Again, I don't understand why people today want to just hate. I mean, but Octavio says he saw Mark Davis laughing in his booth. Hey, send me the photograph, Octavio, and we'll take it up on the next live stream. And hey, again, speaking of which, don't forget to invest. Like, again, I don't care if it's $2 or $20, it's double share night. Double shares for what you invest tonight. So, 831 Scott writes, Raiders are better than the Bills. They need to have a good game plan and beat the Broncos with a ground slash short passing grinding game that keeps their offense on the sideline. Easier said than done. Let me ask you this, 831 Scott. Did you think the Raiders were going to beat the Redskins going into this game? I mean, I did, but I want to know your thoughts. In fact, everybody. That's a question for everybody. I'm going to write that down. Did you think the Raiders were going to beat the Redskins? As I recall, a lot of you did. Okay? I can go back. I can go back and name names. I can go back and name names. Now, a Citron now supports what Octavio wrote in my comments. And Citron says that he being Mark Davis, was laughing in his booth at the end. But what about, we don't know. I think it had something to do, or something about a conversation he was having with the person behind him. Okay. Well, let's note it. I mean, let's find out. Now, let's see here. Silver Maze says, only good thing is Broncos, Ravens, Steelers lost as well. Correct. Crawford says, traveling to the East Coast. No, I don't. Crawford kind of left me there. Again, it's double shares night, folks. Now, Silver Maze says, Vegas fans already off the bandwagon. Well, there's a reason for that. That project is not going well. It has a lot of issues. 831 Scott says, I was very disappointed. I thought the defense, which I criticized, played better than the offense. 831 Scott thought the Redskins were going to win. He says, again, I was very disappointed. I thought the defense, which I criticized, played better than the offense. And Rick Rice says, any team can beat any team in this league. That's true. I'm most surprised the Buccaneers lost to the Vikings. And it's the same pattern of losses that they experienced last year, which is their defense is unable to get the opponent's offense off the field. And so their high-powered offense is left to have to score and move the ball quickly after it's the coach Dirk Carter and the offensive coordinator tries this balanced offense to start, winds up putting the ball in Jameis Winston's hands, in other words, having him pass in pressure situations, and then he throws a pick. So then they complain about it. That's a ridiculous pattern. What they ought to do, they being the Bucs, is just simply put the ball in Winston's hands from the beginning in a truly excellently designed passing approach and deal with it. To me, Jameis Winston is a lot like Phil Rivers of the Chargers. He's a talented, smart, emotional guy whose emotions get away from him a little bit when he's down, when his team is behind. Okay? And that's Jameis Winston to a T. His team needs to recognize that, his team's coaches, rather, and they need to stop putting him in situations where he has to bail out his defense. So, and that's what they do all the time, talking about the Buccaneers. And so, Crawford says, Octavio, this is Crawford talking to Octavio. Says, Octavio, Al Davis will be calling the plays also from the owner's box. And Crawford says, answer your question about, Octavio Arias says that Al Davis would not be laughing. I agree with you there. Crawford, and I really want to see with this too as well. Crawford says that, answer your question about if they were going to beat the Redskins. Okay, got that. And Octavio is really upset that he perceives Mark Davis as laughing while the Raiders are getting drubbed. And Silver Maze says Broncos are a better team than the Lambskins, so Raiders, I think, will lose. I hope they don't, but the performance was really bad. Yeah, Silver Maze, I'm concerned about this game, considering what's coming up. But look, if there's anything to make of this, if you're going to be a Raider optimist, it's this, okay? You had the Buccaneers beat the Bears like, was it 29-7? And for a long time, it was 29-0 to open the season for them. You had Chicago do that, and then Chicago turned around and beat the Steelers, all right? And then you had, of course, the Raiders winning big and then falling flat against, of all teams, the Redskins. You had a lot. You had last week. You had the Cowboys falling flat against the Broncos, and now they play the Cardinals. And hey, the way this season works, I expect the Cowboys to win tomorrow night and not fall flat against the Cardinals. That's how this season is going. It's kind of like, you do. And look at the Patriots. They stank up the place against the Chiefs to start off the season, and then they've been rolling since, and won an incredible shootout against the Houston Texans. You have teams that are doing that this year. It's and a lot of them up, down, up, down. So maybe this is the Raiders' game where they go up again after going down. So John Mark says, I thought Oakland Raiders would win over the Native Americans. Federico Pacheco says, would flip 23 left or veer right plays work with the Raiders' third or fourth down? Federico, that depends on the film formation. And my answer is that if you're going to go flip 23, as I think of flip 23 on third down, you need to do, because flip 23 is the two back. You got, okay, this is the quarterback here, right? Under center. That's the 3 position. This is the 2 position, and that's the 4 position. So flip 23 is a toss or flip this way, okay? You have trips over here, weak side over there, toss sweep. Don't block the linebacker. Let the linebacker challenge the linebacker to stop the play, okay? Have the split in, block the cornerback, or actually have the split end block the cornerback so the cornerback doesn't force. So you got, and then more than likely you're going to have your weak safety over here biased toward the strong side over here. So you're going to pick up maybe 3 yards. You'll get your first down. All right? Unless you're the weak side linebacker super fast can go over. These days, the weak side linebacker isn't playing close up. They're played back. So flip 23 has a chance of working. You see what I'm getting at? Hope you answered your question. Now, we've got 831 Scott says, I don't think the Raiders were going to defeated this season. I knew they would lose some games, but I didn't think it would be to the Redskins, who dominated them. They need to play tough next week. Silver Maze 90 says, Raiders had no adjustments to the swing pass all game, bad coaching. And Big April says, remember the Raiders blew out the Jets last week? Yeah, there's another example. Raiders blew out the Jets. Then here come the Jets blowing out the Dolphins this week, right? Thank you, Big Eightful, for that reminder. And as Federico says, thank you. And Silver Maze says, those 3-yard outs on 3rd and 5 play calling. Right. Things you want to see the Raiders do, okay? That the Raiders didn't do, all right? So, I mean, you couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you. I could not have said it better myself at all. And that's what's, but again, it's just these extremes. You know, you don't have these losses like, okay, we lost by 2. Okay, we lost by 3. I mean, these losses are huge. 27-10 and all this stuff, right? They're huge. I mean, wow. Unbelievably huge. Unbelievable, all right? Again, double shares tonight if you invest, either by Super Chat or PayPal. Doesn't matter if it's $2, $20, whatever. Invest. It's fun. So, it's 10-17. Silver May says they had no pressure on the quarterback besides Mac and Mario. And did Khalil Mack get any sacks tonight? Let's check on that. Let's see what happens. What happened? Let's look at the stats here. See what the statistical cat dragged in. We've got scoring summary. That Carr was 19 of 31 for 118 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Yikes. Mac had 1 sack, and 1 sack for the Mac. And not only that, let's see here. We have the Redskins. For the Redskins, Kirk Cousins. Kirk, did you see that? Cousins. Or Kirk, did you see that? Cousins had 25 of 30 passes for, a whopping 365 yards and 3 touchdowns and no interceptions. Now, the leading receiver was Chris Thompson, as we said, followed by, he was 6 for 150 yards and a touchdown, followed by Vernon Davis, who had 5 receptions for 58 yards and a touchdown, followed by Mr. Crowder for 6 for 52 yards, and Mr. Dodson 1 for 52 yards and a touchdown. So we had, that was that screen pass. I said 73 yards was 52 yards. I apologize. Now, in terms of the stat reads, we had total first downs. The Raiders had 7 first downs for 18 for the Redskins, excuse me. The Redskins got 4 of them by rushing and a whopping 14 by passing. The Raiders got their 7 first downs. Of the 7 first downs, they had 2 by penalty. 2 by penalty. They had 2 by rushing and 3 by passing. Their down efficiency was, they were 0 of 11. Redskins basically got them off the field 11 times. That's what I'm reading here. 0 for 11. Redskins gave them the boot from their drives on 11 occasions on Sunday night. Wow. By contrast, Redskins' third down efficiency was 7 of 13 for 46%. Fourth down efficiency, none, because there were none. For the Raiders, they had 1 of 2 fourth downs, 50%. Total net yards, 126. That's total. The Oakland Raiders offense totaled 100 128 yards. The Oakland Raiders offense totaled 128 yards. 128 yards. That's it. Versus 472 yards for the Redskins. You hear what I said? I mean, it's right here in black and white. Take a look at this, folks. This is gnarly. This is gnarly. This. Boom. Right there. See that? Total net yards. Total net yards. That is awful. And it's so bad, we have to now look at, history to see if where this ranks in terms of the worst Raider offensive performances in history. That's how bad this is. Getting to your comments. We have 831 Scott says, that's what I've been saying. 0-11 for third down, shaking my head. The defense, 831 Scott writes, kept the score close. The offense should be ashamed, which is what Ray Chester was saying. Octavio says, Mark Davis did not stand with his players like other owners. I disagree with that because he made the statement. We've been through that one before. I think maybe he didn't stand the way you wanted him to stand, but he did stand. Okay, but he didn't go out there like Mr. Khan, who owns the Jaguars, and stood with his players, if that's what you're talking about. Okay. So, Silver Maze says, no adjustments at all from the Raiders. And Silver Maze writes, I expect the Broncos to play just as good as I think the Raiders probably will lose. Steve Collins is just joining us. Steve, we missed you. Just play football. And for those of you who are watching this video on demand now, I am talking to my viewers who have chatted in the area here on YouTube, and I'm repeating what they've said, okay? So, hey, Mr. Collins, how you doing? Mr. Collins, it's double shares night. Got $2 for a cup of coffee? Please. Love to have your investment. Makes the show go. We had Oakland Raiders legendary tight end Ray Chester on as guest. Woohoo! All right. Love it. Man. All right. So, again, thank you very much to the man who should be in the Hall of Fame, Ray Chester, who said that, it was a political decision. Now I'm interested to find out what's going on with that. And Steve says he's going to watch that part of it later. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And Steve, what did you think of the game? Talking to you, Steve Collins. What's your take on the game? I'd like to know. All right. And Steve Collins says, just play football. Just play football. Hey, welcome to Zinnia62. You've just joined us. I had legendary Raiders tight end Ray Chester on as guest for the first 30 minutes. Ray Chester said that the Raiders were outcoached tonight. What are your thoughts? He said the Redskins outcoached the Raiders. What are your thoughts? Octavio says, Khan, Snyder, Miami owner, Arthur Blank, the Ford family, the Eagles owner, they all stood up. I get you. I get what you're saying. Sheldon Adelson was a big Donald Trump supporter and a big Mark Davis investor. And I'm wondering if that, plus Davis ties to people like Mark Davis. We have to put this out there because it was true. Mark Davis' good friend was Donald Sterling, of once the NBA owner of the LA Clippers. Remember what happened there, right? Right? So maybe Octavio is opening a window to wondering about political leanings and that sort of thing. It's an honest,
drink was on the left.
An honest question
with your team.
Now,
but you brought screwdrivers to the tailgate, and that's never a bad call.
And not only is it not a bad call, it's also a commercial that I'm not getting paid for. That just sort of popped up from NFL.com. I thought I had that killed there. But, at any rate. Okay. Steve Collins says, to be honest, Zinni, you didn't watch the game, Steve Collins? I'm a little confused. 831 Scott said, I hate the fact that we can't see the comments where you play your streams. YouTube needs to fix that. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. And what he's talking about, folks, is that was just that. You can't see what I'm responding to in this stream. There should be a little ticker at the bottom or some place that you can push a button and you can extend out the screen so you can see the comments as they roll up, right? And then the viewer of the video on demand version would know what I'm responding to. So Big Eightful says tonight was the Jamarcus Russell Oakland Raiders on the field. Ooh. Hey, don't forget, folks, it's double shares investment night, okay? Double shares investment night. So you invest, you get double shares. $2 gives you $4 worth of shares. $20 gives you $40 worth of shares. Double share night. That's not bad, is it? It's pretty good. $5 get you 10. $6 get you 12. You get the idea. So, you get the idea. So, Silver Maze says family friendly Vegas. Yeah, very family friendly. Yeah, it sure is. Now, all right. We've got 17 watching now, and love to know your thoughts on the Redskins game. Okay, let me just... All right. Let's jump to a week from Sunday. Give me a prediction. In fact, let me check the line. The Raiders-Broncos game line, all right? Oakland Raiders. This Denver Broncos. Oakland Raiders versus Denver Broncos. Line 2017. Boom. All right. Where is it? We've got Sunday, October 1st. That is my mom's birthday. So I'm going to be in Georgia. That is my mother's birthday. Oakland Raiders versus Denver Broncos. Yep. My mom's birthday. Oakland, consensus is that basically the Broncos, you take the Broncos and you give 1.5 to the Raiders. That's the consensus right now, okay? So that's according to oddshark.com. And then we've got, what else? Oakland versus Denver Broncos. Line. Wow. Okay. Got it. We've got Oddshark, and then we have, let's see, Mile High Report, full odds. That's early on. That's the latest one we can get. I'm supposed the rest of them will come in later in the week. But right now, that's the best we've got. We just finished Raiders versus Washington Redskins odds. But we don't have, other than what I read to you from Oddshark, any other predictions. Yeah, we don't have that yet. So, but right now, there you are. The Oddshark report is that you take the Broncos, give 1.5 to the Raiders. So there. So we've got Hennessy says anything on Las Vegas, come in tomorrow, or stick around today. But also Hennessy, invest. Love to see an investment from you, my man. It's double shares night. Esubio Gonzalez says from the Raiders went from the best offense in football to playing like little kids. Pathetic. And we've got Lonely on top writes defense did their part, offense drop it if anything. And Silver Maze writes Broncos 28, Raiders 13, playing in Mile High versus better players, no chance they win. And 831 Scott says happy birthday, Mama Z. Thank you. Yeah, a week from today. Big Eightful says if they play like they did tonight, they're going to lose 45-3. But if they show some pride and poise and some heart, they win 34-17. See those extremes again, you know? Nothing like, okay, 30-27, right? 831 Scott says this loss can be a wake-up call at all, he thinks. Silver Maze says they look like the 2002 Raiders Super Bowl team that lost to the Bucks. And Santonio A. Smarkley says, our team, Oakland Raiders, played very poorly. The effort they showed, all things horrible, no passion, no heart. No way you can drop plus 40 plus on the Jets and put up only 10 against Washington. And Octavio Arias agrees with Silver Maze, who said they look like the 2002 Raiders Super Bowl team that lost to the Bucks. And I would think that I can't agree with that one, only because that 2002 team that lost to the Bucks lost. I was there at that Super Bowl, and they lost. Well, they did lose in that they were outcoached. So from that perspective, which Ray Chester pointed out, yeah, I hear you. But in terms of the specific way they were outcoached, it's completely different. The Raiders were outcoached in that the Buccaneers, in that the Buccaneers in that Super Bowl knew what plays were coming because, hey, John Gruden was the coach of the Redskins, right? And Raiders, what's wrong with you? Come on, Zinni. John Gruden was the coach of the Raiders, the 2001, before he went to take over the Buccaneers in 2002, and then faced the Raiders for the 2003 Super Bowl in San Diego. So he trained Rich Gannon and understood and had Bill Callahan as offensive coordinator, not Bill Musgrave, and understood what Gannon was going to do because he was the one who trained him. He wrote the book. That game was completely different than this Redskins game. The Raiders were coached as if they didn't know what to expect from the Redskins offensively. And so they went in with a sort of plain vanilla defense that was ill-equipped to handle the Redskins' outside runs and outside screen passes and flat passes. That's what I saw. Now, let's see here. We've got Steve Collins says 2002 Raiders will put a whooping on the 2017 Raiders. Now, Silver Maze says they aren't used to playing the bigger lambskin Russians. They're used to the smaller Russians of the AFC West. That's an interesting take. I'll check on that. Octavio Arias says that this game, the offensive line for the Raiders took the night off. And Santonio A. Marley writes, not about they lost, but how they lost. Never showed the heart or the will to win at all. And Carr played nothing like himself. And not once we sub the other QBs. I'm not in favor of subbing a QB when you have a situation like that. You let them play through it. There's nothing worse than pulling a quarterback in that game when you know the season's young and you've got to play out the string. You play the quarterback, fix your offensive game plan errors, and move forward. You fix them in game, which is something the Raiders really didn't do well at all. Now, Big Eightful says, or writes, that 2002 Raiders had a better D than the Raiders team. I agree there. Silver Maze writes that flat pass, swing pass, easy win versus the Raiders. Unless, of course, the Raiders do the same thing, right? Which they didn't do. Silver Maze writes they should bench Armisen or Smith and replace them with who? I don't think that was the problem. I really believe, again, it was the pass rush. It was the pass rush overall. And the schemes. Those are subjects we've talked about for a long time here, going back to preseason, right? So, that we talked about that. Octavio writes, the defense played their usual game and kept the Raiders in the game, but the offense did not support the cause. Octavio says, not Emerson. Smith, yes, talking about who you bench. I am not in favor of benching because then you're going to replace them with, you want to give the start to Conley, and maybe give the start to Conley there, okay, why not? You want to go all rookie? Go all rookie. See what happens. Yeah, I mean, theoretically, you probably can't do any worse. My contention is that it's the up front 7 or 8 that is the problem, and it was what they were asked to do, not their talent. Okay, I'm very concerned about that. Silvermane says they should have drafted a rush in. Ward not helping the team at all. Octavio says Conley, Carey, and Emerson. And I say use, I'm going to write this, use Bear 46 defense style. I'm going to write that, just use Bear 46 defense. There you go. Welcome to Zenny62 Live. We're talking the Raiders lost to the Washington Redskins on Sunday Night Football, 27-10. What are your thoughts? And please, when you have a chance, invest. And it is an investment. In Zenny62, it's double shares night. $1, $2, $10. Or you can buy Super Chat. If you buy a Super Chat with all the comments that are rolling up, I will see your comment and see it'll stick right there. Bam! Can't miss it. Santonio, Ace, Marley writes, to win and play with more effort, the stadium we have is not helping our future success. Every team has a decent place to play, but us, and it has a lot to do with performance of the team. But Santone, I remind you of this. The Raiders won at the Coliseum in fine fashion. I was there, it was a party, man. It was a Marshawn fest. It was beast mode place to be, to say the least. So I can't agree with you that the stadium is causing the losses. Not at all. I do agree the Raiders need a brand new stadium, preferably in Oakland. Now, although Big Apple says Silvermane is on the money, and Steve Collins says, I don't agree, Santonio, and I don't either. See, I just don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. You have to remember the Raiders posted their playoff-bound record last year playing at the, quote, old and dilapidated, unquote, Oakland, Alameda County Coliseum Stadium. Just want to remind you. Welcome to Zenny62 Live for those who are watching. I'm going 7 minutes over time. I said I was going to stop at 1:30/10:30. I didn't. I'm talking the Raiders' loss to the Washington Redskins on Sunday Night Football, the national embarrassment, let's call it, because that's what it was. Octavio writes, the defensive line stopped the run and pressured the Redskins a lot until the first half, but the offense made no first downs due to the defense, and it says the defense got tired quickly. That's a good summation. In fact, that's an excellent summation. 831 Scott writes, offense is what choked tonight. I never thought I would be saying that, but it's true. The defense played good enough to win tonight. Offense didn't show up. My issue with the offense was not so much that it didn't show up, was that it pitched a game plan that played in the Redskins' hands where they had Carr sitting back there like a duck. And Silvermane said they literally have no blitz every play just to get pressure on the quarterback. They blitzed in the second half. Well, more appropriately, they faked the blitz. But you're right, they didn't have that all-out, 6 blitz, right? 6, blitz 6, 5 defend against the pass, and just, you're right. Octavia says no possession time. Santonio Ace Marley writes, the Raiders in the city of Oakland have more than enough money to build a stadium in Oakland or Bay Area. I agree with you. So since the Oakland A's are moving to downtown or close, I believe we should at least do the field over or remodel the entire stadium and make better. I agree with you. I'm just saying that is not the reason for the Raiders' loss on the road in the equally old Redskins Stadium. Well, not quite equally old Redskins Stadium. John Mark says, Raiders were just outcoached tonight. Bingo. Bingo. Hey, seeing you outcoach, why don't you out-invest the next person? Double shares night tonight again, folks. For those of you who just joined us, welcome to Zinni62 Live on YouTube. We're sharing our thoughts regarding the Raiders' embarrassing performance on Sunday Night Football against the Washington Redskins in Washington, in, more appropriately, Landover, Maryland, where that organization plays football, at least right now for now. Silver Maze says the blitzes don't get in there in time, and Smith could not cover a 90-year-old in a wheelchair. Ooh. Santonio Asmali writes, and what are your honest thoughts on us signing RG3 or Colin as a backup? Well, who do you replace at this point? I mean, and why? Do you replace EJ Manuel on the hope that Colin Kaepernick will be better than EJ Manuel? Do you replace Connor Cook for that? And then not only that, let's think it further through. We spent a training camp with EJ Manuel, who performed well for a spell, and Connor Cook, who also performed well for a spell, but both know the offense. So why do you replace either one of them with either RG3 or Colin Kaepernick, who have to learn the offense? Adding Colin Kaepernick now should be done if one of the two goes down with an injury, or three goes down with the injury. Carr goes down with the injury, who do you replace? Call Colin. Call Colin, okay? Call Colin Kaepernick. Easy. And you would say, why? Because Kaepernick has a better running ability than RG3, and arguably a better passing ability than RG3. Call Colin Kaepernick. Not only that, Colin Kaepernick has, and everybody forgets this, Colin Kaepernick has an NFC championship ring. No, he didn't win the Super Bowl, but he has an NFC championship ring. He does have a ring, folks. The NFC championship of 2013, his, okay? So, Colin Kaepernick's a talented guy. But you don't just kick a quarterback out at this range, or stage, excuse me, that you spent time training in camp to bring in someone just because of a loss. That's not logical. All right. So, Santonio Ace Marley writes, Colin is good on any given Sunday. He just needs a good team and good coaches behind him. Well said. Well written. And Octavio Arias reminds us, time of possession, 21:54 for the Raiders, 38:06 for the Redskins. Big April says the Raiders DBs are sad to look at. Oh, oof. John Marks writes, 831 Scott, I agree, but they played on a baseball dirt diamond during the 70s and the early 80s during the wins. And 831 Scott, yep. So, agrees, and so, and Santonio wants a fourth quarterback. But see, if you add the quarterback, then you got to get rid of somebody else someplace on the team. You know, it's not just addition, it's subtraction. Hey, for those of you who join us, welcome to Zinni62 Live. You missed a great interview with Oakland Raiders legendary tight end who should be in the Hall of Fame, Ray Chester. And we've been hashing out what happened to the Raiders, who lost to the Washington team, the Redskins, in embarrassing fashion, 27-10. Where the Raiders posted 168 net yards of offense, which has got to be an historic low in the franchise's long, long tenure. So, you know, that's what we're talking about. So, now, Silver Maze says, I think Charles Xavier could outrun Smith. All right, Charles Xavier is an X-Men character from Marvel Comics lore who can move things with his mind and control the minds of others, and gets around in a wheelchair that he controls with his mind. So, I don't think that's quite fair, because Charles Xavier arguably could cause his wheelchair to move pretty fast. Just letting you know. So anyway, you have to remember Charles Xavier is not called an X-Men for nothing. Now we've got, let's see here. Now that we've gotten that little bit of Marvel comics history out of the way. Big April says, Mr. Zinni, how can the Raiders D get better and hold the team to under 20 points per game? It starts with a P. It's called pressure. And the Raiders need to go back to what Al Davis termed as the bump and run. And a team that played like the nickname it received during the late 60s, 11 Angry Men. And the Raiders defense doesn't play that way because they're not in a scheme that causes them to be angry. Now, what do I mean? I mean that, and I've talked about this before, rushes the gap to go to the passer, picking up the job of stopping the run along the way. Linebackers up close, not back. Pressing defenders. Maybe you go out and get Vontae Burkett away from the Bengals. You pick up a few penalty points along the way, sure, but then you get that nasty streak. The Raiders defense needs some nasty. It's not nasty. So you get Burkett and Pac-Man Jones from the Bengals. Play a 46. Get some hard-nosed attitude about you. The Raiders defense doesn't have that. It doesn't have the monsters. There's no one on the Raiders defense that anyone fears outside of Khalil Mack. And I have to say this year, a lot of teams have gotten Mack under control. So far. Okay? So that's what you need. So, Silver Maze, let's see here. I hope that answers your question. And Santonio says, we already have Amari Cooper, so let's keep building on that, and the running backs really are good. So what are your thoughts? My thoughts are that, again, as I said earlier, we need to focus on developing a true running attack around our bell cow running back, who should be Marshawn Lynch, and the Raiders are not using him that way. John Mark says, Santonio, I'll follow court injunction about the Raiders in Vegas. Okay. Silver Maze says, Raider offense looked so confused. Even when there was time to throw, they looked like they were lost, especially in that red zone series. Yes. Oh, what a stinkeroo. Santonio Ace Marley writes, what I like to see Raiders do on Sundays is finish the game with heart and passion. Don't let up. And a lot of that is dictated by game plan. John Mark says Adam Pac-Man Jones would be a great addition. Yes. Yes. And Big Apple says he did. BB says you're wrong. I have no idea who BB is. So since I have no idea who BB is, we will go on to the next one. Now, Santonio Ace Marley says, sign players from Alabama and the Raiders will become a real threat and problem. 2 players of the Redskins from Alabama. Amari Cooper from Alabama. That's 1. So that's 50%. So maybe somebody like, Reuben Foster would have been cool, right? Now, Silver Maze writes, the sideways runs never work, but keep doing it because whatever. When you say sideways runs, what do you mean? Explain that one. I'm a little lost. When I think of sideways run, I think of quite literally running sideways like that. What do you mean? Okay. Oh, a sweep. Oh, I get it. Okay. Well, but you know what, John Marks, thanks for the clarification, John. The Raiders didn't run a lot of sweeps. They ran reverses, but they didn't run sweeps with Marshawn Lynch. Like the old Dallas Cowboys sweep out of shotgun formation, with Tony Dorsett. That was neat. Santonio Ace Marley says, if Foster loses his job ever at San Francisco, Raiders should invest and pick him up. Yeah, that'll be a while, though. Silver Maze says, pitch to the outside, they get hit for losses every time. Depends on how you pitch. Okay? Depends on how you pitch. It really does. Power runs. Now, that depends on how you do it. Now, let me explain further. By the way, it's double shares night for those of you who've joined us. Welcome to Zinni62. We have 24 viewers now. We've had a constant flow, and it's been increasing, at a time when I thought it's going to decrease. Welcome to Zinni62 on YouTube. We're chatting about the Raiders' loss to the Redskins, and right now I am going to play diagrams I like. And when I'm looking for, I'm writing shotgun formation sweep football. That's what I'm writing at. And I'm writing that for a reason here. And I'm not necessarily referring to the jet sweep, but this is, here. This is, I think if this opens up, I'm opening up this. Come on, open. There it is. This is the kind of sweep I like, or as I like to say in my voice sometimes, this is the kind of sweep I like. Watch this, folks. Ta-da! Single wing 28 jet sweep. Quarterback. Okay. Tailback. Boom. Pull the onside guard around here. Tight end stays here. Really, if I did this right like that, weak back, I would have the tight end. I would have 2 tight ends over here. Okay. Doing this, but this is what I favor. Or a pitch, right? That's one. Here's another right here. This is the Auburn buck sweep out of shotgun. So you've got the halfback coming in motion, handoff over here. You could hand it off and then have the fake and the quarterback go this way, read option style, right? The Auburn buck sweep, okay? So there's the Auburn buck sweep, and which is interesting. Here is this is the jet sweep from youth football in this case. In motion here. All right, quarterback takes the handoff. It takes the snap, excuse me, hands off, but then runs this way to fake, right? This is the kind of play that I would love to have seen the Raiders put Terrell Pryor in as quarterback. He would have excelled in a series like this. Jet sweep with a fake, hand it off here, or keeps the ball, goes this way, or stops and throws it. All right? Had the Raiders done that and built a full offense off, that play series I just described for you, Terrell Pryor, I'm saying this, would have led the Raiders to the playoffs. Okay? I'm just letting you know that. That's what I favor. All right? Now, Silver May says, where's the part where they go 70 yards on a swing pass? I have that. I'm reluctant to show it because if I do, that's an NFL highlight film, and then I can't collect any money from ads that run on this, and I need revenue to keep Zenny62 Media going, which is why I always put out the, invest sign, right? As I just did now, it's a double shares night. If I show that, it becomes a copyright issue, and I want to avoid copyright issues. Thank you very much. So, where are we? We've got, let's see here. Oh, good night, Big Eighthful. Great to have you here. See you tomorrow, hopefully. And Octavio says Jones plays in Cincinnati, talking about Pac-Man Jones. And Octavio 831 Scott says he would never want Pac-Man Jones on his team. He hates Pac-Man Jones because he remembers when he slammed Amari Cooper's face into the turf after the play was over and he tore Crabtree's chain off of his neck. He's a punk. Yeah, but you need... Look, let me put it this way. He's playing in the league. I would rather have him on my team than on someone else's. It reminds me of what LBJ said. You want basically someone who is in your tent, basically for want of the less appropriate, less digestible term, you want someone in your tent pointing out rather than outside your tent pointing in at you. Okay? So that's what you want. That's why you want a Pac-Man Jones on your team. But that's not enough for 831 Sky's like, I don't care. Anyway, Silver Maze says it's kind of funny when people defend well, whatever about that. I don't know. Let's see here. Let's see here. Oh, Silver Maze says, how about the Patriots defense letting a rookie also almost beat them. I don't think that was just any rookie. That was Deshaun Watson, okay? Deshaun Watson almost beat them. Now, you see, finally you see me in Raider gear. Oh, I've been in Raider gear before. You haven't noticed. I've been in Raider gear before. Yeah. I was in Raider gear at the game where I did all those live streams at the Raider game. You can see it then. So, not the first time, but I'm glad you noticed, all right? And I'm glad you noticed. So, let's see here. And Silver Mace says, you think after the Las Vegas fans will switch teams to the Chiefs? Let's see. And Santonio writes, as you said, Raiders need monsters on defense. And we have little to none, and the Raiders are not feared like the old days. Yeah, that's all I'm saying. We need monsters. We need guys that people are afraid of. You have a little bit of that, that hyphiness to them. We need a defender to match the beast modeness of Marshawn Lynch. Okay? How about that? Think about this. Think about this. 31 Scott, you may not like it, but give this some thought, okay? Do you realize that Pac-Man Jones and Marshawn Lynch are both 24s? Think about it. There's something there, Something there, okay? All right? Octavio's like, ding. All right, hey, Octavio, you always invest. I think are you a month off or whatever? $2? I know it's a little over under your little thing, but hey, why not, Just asking. Silver Mace. Oh. Octavio says monsters, not criminals. Gotcha. But, one person's monster is another person's criminal, right? Just saying. Octavio's next month. Got it. Now, Silver Maze writes, Conley should start. At least he won't give up touchdowns like Emerson. You hope. That's a hope. Because we don't really know. That's a hope. So Tony A. Marley writes, Raiders defense needs to be feared the same way that many college teams do not want to face Alabama's defense or offense. Yes. Or USC's. Well, no, actually that's not true. USC got all they can handle from Cal. Almost all. Cal's loss was self-inflicted, I think. I was at that game. Hey, welcome to Zenny62. We're chatting Raiders' embarrassing loss to the Redskins. Had Oakland Raiders tight end Ray Chester on for the first 30 minutes. Legendary tight end who should be in the Hall of Fame. Thank you very much. Mr. Chester, longtime friend. He's going to be back. And Ace says USC was shut out last year by Alabama 52-0. Thank you for pointing that out. And so, like I say, if you have a chance... Oh, by the way, please, thumbs up as well. And it's double shares night. Octavio says, Emerson saved us from a Redskins touchdown. Silver Maze writes, off subject, but the X-Men showed the gifted looks sick. Ah, the show. Really? Well, check out the... I'll check that out. Boy, what an enduring concept. That mutant superhero thing, right? Quite right. Hey, folks, it is 10:58 p.m., almost 11, which means it's almost 2 o'clock in the East. I'm going to close out in about a couple of minutes, I think. So, any last thoughts before I close tonight? How did everybody like Ray Chester, those who've stuck around for this long? Comments, thoughts, greetings, salutations. John Mark says USC at 84,000 fans versus Texas, and Rams and Chargers combined 80,000. Octavio says you won't be able to... Why won't you be able to sleep tonight, Octavio? What's going on? Santonio Ace Marley writes, tonight's game showed us what the Raiders will be like in Vegas if they leave Oakland and go to Vegas playing effortless. 831 Scott, in other words, losing. 831 Scott writes, Emerson played well last year. John Marks says, Raymond Chester is his hero. To which I'm sure Mr. Chester says, thank you very much. We got to get him in the Hall of Fame. We got to launch a campaign to get Ray Chester in the Hall of Fame. Octavia says Raiders got shamed. Ugh. Sad. 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 Well, folks, it's 11 o'clock. I will bid you adieu. See you tomorrow. Well, excuse me. I will not see you tomorrow at the normal time because I have a meeting. So I'm going to go on earlier than normal. And I'm going to go on, rather than go on at 8:30, I'm going to go on at 5 o'clock Pacific. Okay? 5 o'clock Pacific. Around the time of the Monday night game at Cowboys. And then I need to be close to where I'm supposed to be for my meeting at 8 that night. All right? So normal time will not happen, but I need to do this meeting. We'll be on early, and I will be on through the day, actually. So stay tuned, because Monday promises to be a big NFL day with recaps and everything else. So, but remember, mark your calendar, your time, 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock on the East Coast, special early time. Then, of course, Tuesday we'll have Godfather Grizz, but I'm going to do 2 live streams tomorrow during the day. 2, okay? So be here. If you're at work, you know, stick around, be around, all right? Oh, by the way, some of you wanted to look at this on a kind of like a podcast. You can go do so via YouTube Red. So if you subscribe to YouTube Red, you can download this as a podcast. So please subscribe to YouTube Red, and then this becomes podcastable. Okay? Now, all right? So, as John Mark says, you can bet your last money. It's all going to be a stone gas on you. Hey, John, love to have $2 investment. $1? $1 investment. I'll double your shares for $1. Heck, I'll triple your shares for $1. Now, Centennial Smalley says, Raiders move. Oakland keeps the entire name. They must change it. 831 Scott says, Jim Plunkett needs to be a Hall of Fame too. Yep. Plunkett and Ray Chester. Double Plunkett, Chester, Cliff Branch. Yeah. That's it. That's definitely it. All right. It is 11:02 tonight. And again, thank you all very much. And thank you very much to Ray Chester, Oakland Raiders legendary tight end. It's fantastic. Thank you very much. See ya. See you tomorrow.